7:05, Sunday evening, season 3, episode number 29. I've been joined this evening by the lovely Susie Mackie, and we are talking about, building up our confidence, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So Susie, could you just, before we start chatting, could you just say a little bit more about what it is you do? And so I feel like you've got lots of feathers in your cap.
Lots of elements to what I do, yes. Yeah. I guess you could say that every single element all comes down to helping people feel better about themselves, and who wouldn't want to feel better about themselves. And so I've just described to you, Matt, I have this little basket, a beautiful basket, imaginary, of lovely eggs of different elements of well-being. And so I have evolved, if you like, from being a photographer of weddings and portraiture to being a boudoir photographer, to being, in a way, a bit of a life mentor, because when somebody comes to me to have their photograph taken in such an intimate and revealing way, they've come to me because they need a confidence boost, or their body image, their self-image isn't great. And I've evolved also into the world of well-being with health and nutrition. What we put in our bodies, what we put onto our body is really important. And then going into partnership with a real mindset coach who is doing the Tony Robbins, which you mentioned, strategic intervention course, which is absolutely fantastic. So we've linked up to bring our separate skills together, and also some of which overlap, and so that we can really help both men and women, because really up to date I've been focused on women, so that we can help men and women with their overall health, of course, which has to begin up here with your mindset. Brilliant.
So because obviously I checked out some of your material earlier today as quick as I could, and it was just so fascinating, because obviously, like you said, you started with photography. So it is all about confidence did it start with confidence, how we are and accepting what we have, or is it about growing it from there, if that makes sense?
I think because I started photographing weddings in 2009, because I graduated in 2008 at the age of 50, so a very mature student who actually during college got less and less mature as time went on. And I think that's probably the case now. But I learned so much. I went to Hereford College of Arts, and I just learned so much about people. I'd had a very, very sheltered upbringing as a farmer's daughter on a dairy farm in Hampshire, and then going to a private girls' school. I had a sister. So even as a teenager, I didn't really know how men ticked, and that coupled with a very low self-worth. One might say, you had a privileged background. How could you have a low self-worth? But, there are a lot of people who struggle because it's all about the inside. It's nothing to do with the external, how you look or what you have. It's about how you feel inside. Yeah. So I just wanted to go to college and learn more technique about how to photograph my daughters as they grew up. But at college I was with 19-year-olds with loads of tattoos and all, pink hair, and up to 63, and we were such a tight-knit bunch in this world of creativity and the dark room and learning and cultural studies, because it was quite academic, that I learned a lot about people. And I found my absolute passion, which was working with people and creating the image. And so, of course, when I graduated, I was able to put those two things together. I can remember speaking to my tutor and saying, do you think I've sort of not chickened out, but I can't remember the phrase I used, but by doing weddings? And she said, no, because I think you need to have a certain nature to be amongst people on such an incredibly special day. Yeah. So photographing weddings was where I really cut my teeth with photographing people. A massive responsibility, but also a huge privilege. And I absolutely loved it. And I used to get great big hugs at the end of the day, and oh, it was wonderful. And so it was about 2012 that I decided I wanted to take photographing people a bit further and go into what's known as boudoir photography. And I think probably boudoir photography is enough to send most women running for the hills and the red wine, especially when they look at some of the boudoir sites out there, because unless you've got a really shit hot body and you look like a model, you don't get seen on the boudoir sites. And also for me, they were very cold. There was nothing going on in the eyes. And so I wanted to photograph real women. Now, it's nothing to say, there's nothing wrong with beautiful, gorgeous women being photographed half in the dark in a very sculptural way. That's a certain style and that's wonderful. But I just wanted to, again, help women of all ages feel better about themselves. And so that's what I chose to do. And I wanted to not have any age or size or weight restrictions, and so what it had to be was about the woman stepping into herself during the shoot. And that's very difficult for some women, to let their sensual side out to play and to understand that they have a right to feel beautiful. And I learnt a hell of a lot. I have learned over the years that I could get the most beautiful, slim woman, young woman, as a bridal, for a bridal boudoir shoot, coming in with no body confidence whatsoever.
Here we go. Sorry, guys. We are back. Don't worry. Sorry, Susie. So I think not sure where we got to.
It was either because we were talking about boudoir and getting our kit off, or it was Zoom telling me, would you just take a breath, please, Susie? Oh dear. So, yeah.
So now we've been totally thrown off our game. Where did you get to?
Well, we were talking about essentially body image. Yes. Just like happiness is an inside job, body confidence is an inside job. And very sadly, it's something which many people, men and women, struggle with. And so, which I think is really sad. It's part of the whole caboodle of all the things that we have coming at us. The media is, shall we say, not helpful. And everything we see, or not everything, but a lot of the things that we see in the media are so over retouched and flawless perfection. There's no such thing as flawless perfection, and unless, certainly not in the human form anyway. And so I think that we need to get real. I can remember buying a magazine, and on the cover was an actress that I really love and admire, Emma Thompson. And, you see her on film.
Oh, no, not again. All right. Do apologize, everyone. We are having some technical hitches this evening. Just try and top that one off.
Focus so much on the bits they don't like and be negative about themselves, but be kind to themselves and start to shift their focus onto the elements of their bodies that they do like. We've got internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, it keeps flicking in and out. Okay. Don't worry.
Okay, well, we'll carry on regardless.
Yeah, I took the record off for now anyways. That might
okay. So I think that, yes, I mean, your fabulous podcast is called Mindset Explosion. And I'd love you to tell me a bit about the explosion bit, actually. But maybe that's perhaps, the light bulb moment when you have that mindset shift. And I remember mine perhaps was when I suddenly realized that if I wanted my life to change, and if I wanted to stop all the shitty things coming to me to stop, I needed to change me.
Yeah.
And that you need to change you first, and then all the rest of it. And in fact, I've just sent a link to my my dear friend and colleague, Emma Wilkinson, and we're setting up this business called the Life Hub. And so, did I explain to you, was it before we started? I haven't explained it yet, how we're linking.
No.
Oh, okay, well, here we go, folks. We're setting up a business called the Life Hub. So actually we can help men as well as women. With the books that I published under Women of Spirit, which are the anthologies of stories of real women, ordinary lives, but extraordinary stories. Now, the thing is, I think nearly everybody has a story. Everybody has a story to tell.
Everyone got a story, definitely.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes stories are really useful for learning. They bypass the defense mechanism. They make us more empathetic. I read that even fiction can help us be more empathetic towards perhaps people of other colors, cultures. And I feel that we do need to become a more tolerant race as human beings. So stories are really, really important. And I've kind of flipped from the Life Hub to Women of Spirit. So for now, I'll go back to why we're doing the Life Hub. And if I may, I'll come back to the Women of Spirit, because that's a separate element and there's a kind of history to that. So I sent Em, as I was mentioning, a link to Karamo Brown on a fabulous website that your male or female viewers would love, called wearemanough.com. It's a website that was set up by Justin Baldoni in America, and it's addressing what it is, how men feel it's to start with, about being masculine. And of course, this is a huge challenge for everybody, because I think as women have become more independent, men have perhaps, some have become emasculated or confused about what's our role. Will we get told off if we stand up and hold the chair out, or and it's a bit of a minefield for men out there. And so this is a fabulous website, wearemanough.com, and there I happen to send the link, and there's on the homepage at the moment, there's an interview with Karamo Brown. He is one of the 5 gorgeous gay guys on Queer Eye. Do you watch Queer Eye?
I haven't, no, but I know the program.
If you love mindset, personal development, makeovers, absolutely wonderful. And I tell you something, if you start watching it, you'll get addicted. So Karamo starts with, about, coincidentally talking today, he starts with, you've got to work on you first. And so Emma and I, with the Life Hub, we talked about the element of self-love, and she felt that was a step too far. Even the phrase, the word, might challenge some people. And I've done workshops where a woman has said, it's really arrogant to love yourself. And so there's a lot of work to be done. So translating that through into boudoir, I think some women come because they know they want a little bit more help into learning to love themselves. And there are so many ways in which we can learn to love ourselves. And but it is super important that we do that, because it's the beginning of it all. But the trouble is, I think that as children, it's all not thrashed physically, well, sometimes.
It's around us, isn't it?
It's negativity, no, and all of this awful stuff, instead of, what did you say to me earlier? The rising tide raises all ships. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And wouldn't it be lovely if more people could be part of that tide? And in fact, during the launch of my book 1 of Women of Spirit in 2017, I talked about, I felt like I was actually a pebble and I'd been dropped into a pond, which created ripples, and those ripples were interlinking with other people in the world of well-being and wellness and mental health, and then was spreading out, and becoming an ocean. And so there's another website I'll tell you about, which is stunning, and it's called humansofnewyork.com. It's all about stories. It's a young photographer in New York who just goes out. It's a beautiful website. And if I could make womenofspirit.co.uk the Humans of New York of the UK, with story sharing, I will be a very happy woman, because the whole point about sharing stories has never been to get back at somebody or hurt somebody. The point about these women is that they have been right down there, really suffered. Some of the stories are quite harrowing, and they're right across the board. But they all found out how to survive, whether it was through their own determination or with help. Now they're all thriving, and they're very happy with themselves and their lives, and many of them are qualified in the area that was their deep challenge or pain or trauma, even professionally, so that they can super authentically give back to others who are going through the same thing. So it's very, very powerful stuff. And I have had gentlemen come to me and say, Susie, please don't forget us, you know, we're struggling too. And in fact, yeah, men are disadvantaged in the fact that they're not genetically programmed to talk to each other in the way that women just, you know, which we do. We talk about our feelings and much, much more. So we have that support system naturally. And I think there's still the cultural thing. Oh God, I've got another website for you, of that men can't show or mustn't show, you know, weakness or emotional or mental fragility. And that's why I think I'm right in saying there's a higher rate of suicide in young men and in men after divorce at a certain age. So, you know, that's why I'm so happy to be with Emma and the Life Hub, because a lot of that's going to be about mindset and holistic well-being. So beginning with the mind and the whole caboodle. So wellness, whole wellness. The other website was The Naked Professor.
Okay.
And he does walk naked through the streets of London, and he is absolutely gorgeous. I met him in London at a conference, and he grew up with a very, very low self-esteem. He had two older brothers who were rugby players and, you know, had big fit bodies, and he was skinny as anything. So decided that he would bodybuild and, you know, and drink beer and all of these things that his big brothers were doing. And he got the body and, you know, drank the beer, went to the parties, and was as miserable as he'd ever been. So again, came to the understanding and the realization that that wasn't the answer. And he has a beautiful soul and a beautiful website. So yeah, The Naked Professor.
Naked Professor. So it's this hub, is that going to be based in Cheltenham?
The Life Hub, well, I'm in Cheltenham, Emma is in Bromsgrove. We will be doing workshops, physical workshops. We're going to do a lot online because I think what lockdown has taught us is that we used to swear at social media and digital technology, and now, you know, we thank heavens for it. And I think that it's going to serve us a lot better to do a lot more online. Having said that, there's nothing like one-to-one or personal or even small group contact. So yes, we'll be doing that. So yes, we'll have them in Cheltenham. We are actually also teaming up to launch, I think on the 11th of August, we're launching the Love Biz Executive It Is a Ladies Club in Cheltenham, which will be lunch at the Ivy 4 times a year and 8 Zooms all through the year. And so going to start inviting people to that, which is very exciting. There'll be a lot of value in that. So again, a mixture of online. But yeah, it took us the longest time it took us to actually find the name that we wanted.
Yeah.
And I think it's all embracing the Life Hub. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. And there's kind of things that's come up a lot. And even when we was off air, it is working from within, isn't it? So it's all about the inside out. And we talked a little bit just before we came on air, because obviously the whole world has gone for this big change, and I think we've been on a transition as humans anyway, in terms of men's mental health and women feeling empowered for quite a long time, it feels. So do you think anything would have changed for us in terms of mindset for lockdown?
Yes, very much so. And I think, again, as we were discussing before we came on live, that it's been very different for people. Some people have really, really struggled, and I guess that's partly where they were before lockdown happened. And some people have actually thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I don't want to go back to work. This has given me time. I think it's given people time. Now, whether it's given them time that they've struggled to fill in a positive way, and so they've headed for the fridge or the bottle, and lots of people have. And you know, that is one coping or two coping, that's coping mechanisms, but not necessarily healthy ones. And in fact, it was quite funny. Emma and I aligned with a health and wellbeing company called Arbonne, and they do the nutrition, the gut health, because everything, again, mindset, but gut health. Our health begins with our gut. And so I was just embarked on this, the very first 30-day program that I was going to do. And then lockdown happened, and I got the pack, and lockdown happened, and I thought, oh, bloody hell, no alcohol for 30 days. Well, I could have had alcohol, but, and I was ready. I had the mindset to knuckle down, do the 30-day program, because I wanted to be healthy. Because for a few years I've had fibromyalgia, which is not very nice. And there'd been, you know, I wanted to help my health as much as possible. And I wanted, you know, so I did this, and I didn't miss alcohol at all. And in fact, I loved the 30 days and what it did for me so much that I've just about finished my third now. And I think if you feel well and healthy, that allows you to be you. When I was feeling very, very ill, no energy, in pain, I couldn't be me. I didn't have the energy to be me. And the real me is quite tiggerish and quite naughty, and, you know, and fun and funny. And you're just not that person when either you are mentally suffering or emotionally or physically suffering. And so I was so glad that I was ready. I was ready to do that. And so Em and I did a little talk. There was a Mind, Body and Spirit festival, and we did that by Zoom instead of being at the Pittville Pump Rooms. And we talked about being lockdown loopy. So further to your question, I think, yes, that people have, it's been very different for people. And I think a lot of that must be to do with mindset. And if you're blessed with a positive or not optimistic outlook, then, you know, you have a huge advantage. But there's nothing to say that if you don't, and if you do struggle, you can raise yourself up. You know, there are so many people like you know, with your martial arts and the club and everything that you do around your podcasts, you know, with Mindset Explosion, that we can help people who just need support. And that's...
Yeah, I think a bit like what you said though, Susie, in that I used to be quite a negative person. I think if I go back 20 years, and on hindsight, I was lacking in confidence, and I used to be an engineer. I changed my career at 30, but just even hearing your story, you said, you know, you at 50, you went back to college, and now you're in the best time of your life, you said. And I think sometimes it's nice to hear those stories, because I know for a lot of people that you know, people have lost jobs, and people have lost more than some are going to be, you know, still recovering from illness. And yes, it's
or loss of a loved one.
Yes, and others again with their mental health affected. So you can feel at your lowest, and you can feel negative, but you can, I know from experience that you can turn that around.
Oh God, yeah.
And it is like that, but it's a bit like this. But you're always going up. You might slip a bit when you go back.
Exactly, Matt. That's exactly the thing. There is no straight line. There is no miracle cure. There's no one element that, oh yeah, that works. I've done that. Woof, I'm off. I think it's like happiness. It's a journey, not a destination. But it's also seeking out those moments and appreciating those moments. And the other thing is being really grateful for what you do have, whilst not beating yourself for wanting more. It's fine to want more. We all have aspirations, and but being content, being in the moment, the peace of mind. When one of my women of spirit in book 2, the most beautiful woman, Karen Ramsey Smith, taught me, she was ex-corporate, 25 years in the corporate world, burned her out, made her miserable, as it does for so many people, and became a transformational coach and mindset teacher, and taught me that if you can live in the present moment, it takes off so much pressure, and it's just peace of mind, because you're not looking into the past, you're not worried about the future, but you're here, right here and now. And I remember watching, there's that wonderful author, and her name escapes me, but there was an interview that she did, and she writes books for teenagers, and she was talking to teenagers. So if any viewers out there with teenage children, I will try and find the link and send it to you. She was talking about just get through this next 60 seconds, this 1 minute. That's all you've got to do, is get through this 1 minute. And you've got through it, and so then you go through the next minute. And I think for some people, you have to bring it down to that before they can even begin to see a future. But I was so low throughout my life, with such a low self-worth, no boundaries, no self-esteem, and I do feel that if I can do it, then the first thing you have to do is own it, own what's happened to you, your part in it, because it always, it's never all up, it's mostly about you. So therefore, then there's that mindset explosion about, okay, if I want my life to change, I've got to change me first. So find help. If you're hurting with some sort of physical illness, or you've broken your ankle, you go to the doctor. In this country, we're so lacking in acceptance about therapy and healing. It's just not the norm for us yet. But if you're hurting, seek help. And so many people are hurting emotionally or mentally that there's nothing wrong with seeking help for that. Because what's the alternative? Either staying in that zone, which is bloody miserable, or going even sinking even further down.
Yeah, it was like if you cut your arm and you leave it and it gets dirt in there. That sounds a bit of a really bad analogy, but it's going to get infected. So that it's the same with any kind of pain or hurt, isn't it? We're saying it just manifests more and more and more.
Yes.
And it's almost like an epidemic. It can. I think I've done that where I've just had things and I've brought it into people around me in the sense.
Oh yes, your vibration.
Yeah,
so you can be a drain. You can drain all the energy from around you, or you can, what's it, a radiator. You can radiate the energy and lift people up. And there's that thing about when you talked about meetings and where we were going to be conducting our meetings. I can remember there's something like go to the meeting, because either the meeting needs you or you need the meeting.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a lovely element of when we can go back to, the meetings, the networking, the workshops. We can start doing that more often. Go, if you can go. But what my hope is as well with lockdown and the mindset is that it will have changed people's outlook. It will have enabled them to think, gosh, I'm so lucky with what I do have, because some people have been able to be at home with their children, or somebody might have had a baby, and so the father's been able to be there for a couple of months after the birth. And there's a lot of positives, and where the negatives are, it's like when I'm doing a boudoir shoot with somebody, with a woman, let's focus on the positives. There's that lovely song that I posted a few weeks ago on my daily Facebook post about accentuate the positive, decentuate the negative. If you do that, I think life is just a bit better.
Definitely. It hasn't been great for my business, but the best thing about lockdown, Susie, is I have had my boys have been here from a Wednesday, and so we've had a great time. So you know, it is what it is on the other stuff, and I think the more you do focus on the positive, because some things I can't control that. But the other bit, we've had some great times. So
I think that's a very good point, Matt, is focusing on the things you can control. And you can control your self-talk. A lot of people talk to themselves in a very negative way. You can learn to flip that. You can learn to be kind to yourself, as well as that. And you can learn to grow your confidence. And you can learn to speak to yourself nicely. And one of the confidence tips that I usually share is to literally, when you get up in the morning, smile at yourself in the mirror. You know, smile and it's not easy to do to start with, but literally, just even if you fake it and then genuinely smile at yourself, and then if you can possibly do it, start, you know, greeting yourself. And I haven't done this for a while, but you know, it makes you just laugh because you feel a bit silly and taking the mickey out of yourself, but just say morning gorgeous, you know, and that just makes you smile. And actually another thing that what you can go,
I like that.
Good in the morning, you go and you smile at yourself in the mirror and say morning gorgeous, because if you can't do that for yourself, it's a damn shame. The other thing that's really good,
Susie, as well, if like, because you were talking about self-love, really, and I think I agree, it's so important, because it's easy to love other people if you don't love yourself. Well, it's not, isn't, but it's much easier to love other people when you do love yourself, if that makes sense.
It does, and it's a much healthier love.
Yeah.
Much healthier love. In fact, today I was talking about giving and receiving. And I used to be a giver, and I wasn't open to receiving. And here's another plug. Bertie Peregrine, in book 2 of Women of Spirit, she is a rapid transformational therapist. She trained with Marissa Peer, and she did some work with me. We swapped some photo shoots with a therapy session, and you go into the subconscious, and she enabled me to understand why I wasn't open to receiving and why I was a giver all the time. And so that changed my life, was one of the elements of healing that changed my life. But also, I think if you are if you're open to what I put on my Facebook today, was if you're open to receiving, what you're doing is you're allowing the others to have the gift of giving.
Yeah.
Nobody receives, nobody's able to give. And so it's a lovely thing to do. And it's that lovely sort of figure of 8 of energy. And actually, Marissa Peer, I think she was the one who, several times I was encouraged during slightly darker times, was to write with an old lipstick. I guess that's because you can take it off your mirror easily. And if you're watching, don't borrow your wife's or partner's lipstick without asking for an old one first. Is to take an old lipstick and write on your bathroom and bedroom mirror, I am enough. Because that is something that people just don't feel like they're enough. And they are. But they just really don't feel like it. Yeah. So and I think a final little, perhaps hopefully sort of confidence tip is to, when somebody gives you a compliment, just simply accept it as a gift and say thank you, rather than deflecting it and saying, oh, just take it as the gift it's meant to be, and say thank you, and understand that compliment was given with sincerity. Because a compliment it's not often given without sincerity, is it? A compliment is quite spontaneous, and just so accept that somebody's said something really lovely about you, whether it's your appearance or your clothes or your ability to do something. Take it on board, receive that gift, and simply say thank you. I did a talk to WI Group a few years ago. There were over 60 women in the room, and when I asked them, who among you receives a compliment really well and accepts its truth, and only 2 of them put their hand up. That's sad. Yeah. So hopefully, you know, those little things will help make a bit of difference to how you go about your day. The other lovely thing, as I was telling you earlier, I'm very, very lucky to live overlooking the Montpellier Gardens. So I'm blessed with all these trees, which are much greener this year, having had far less pollution. And one of the about being in the present and being mindful, one of the loveliest things to do, because so many people are looking down, whether they're down because they're hunched and they're depressed, or they're looking at their phone. So one thing you can do to lift yourself is what I actually call chin up, tits out. So it's like, open up your chest cavity. That immediately makes you look and appear more confident. So practice walking and sitting like that. I probably haven't been doing so do that, and it makes you smile, just chin up, tits out, for the girls anyway. But when you're walking under a tree, look up. It's a whole new world up there, utterly beautiful, whatever time of year it is. And rather than being like this, if you go under a tree and just look up at it and what's beyond it as well, it's literally heavenly. You know, maybe go and do that tonight or tomorrow, and it just really lifts your spirits.
It's a nice evening. Motion leads to emotion. So if we lift our
oh, I like that. Thank you.
Up, definitely.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. You know, I was thinking when we're down, and it is. I think I've said this before on a couple of my podcasts, that we have like a recipe for things that we're feeling. So it's important to know why have we felt on that downside, to understand maybe how our body was, but also on the, you know, when we felt really bouncy or really, and that to look up and just notice some other things around you. And once you can understand that, these little, and they're all little things, and I think even the tips you've said, but it seems like a little tip, but it's a massive tip, because if we could do that every day, you know, if a boat changes angle just that 1%, it's all the way over here. And it doesn't take that long.
It's what Harry used to call small sustainable steps to success. And Emma and I are working with habits. Because I think that's why this nutrition program is 30 days, because it really changes your habits, because it actually changes what your body is craving, you know. And so therefore I didn't want the alcohol. I got a sweet tooth. I didn't want the sweet stuff, and I haven't drunk, and I used to love a good cup of coffee, you know, cafetiere. I haven't drunk coffee since. So, and that's 3.5 to 4 months. And so it's the habitual changes that you can make, but again, you often need support with that. You know, a buddy, have a buddy to hold you accountable.
Yes.
Another thing.
Yeah.
So can I ask you, with your martial arts, a lot of that is about mindset, isn't it? Hence the name of your podcast, Mindset Explosion. But where did the explosion bit come from?
I just came up with it one day.
Light bulb.
It's just like, it's exploding mindset out. I mean, I suppose if I was to redo it, I might call it a martial arts mindset. It's just something, you know,
that would be too narrow, though, wouldn't it? That might.
Exactly.
So, I think mindset explosion would be.
It's only martial arts. That's all he's going to talk about.
I
didn't want to go so much into that when I first launched it out, and it's and because you know, martial arts centers or martial arts dojos, they were like the center of a community. So that's another.
In the olden days, do you mean?
Yeah. There's a big part of a community
instead of the pub.
Exactly. Yeah. So and you know, we're leaders in our own way, so I feel we've got a responsibility. And with the coaching I did, it was a lot of still is personal development. I was just better at martial arts. You're a great photographer, so it's just a different way, and it just I capture a certain type of person. The same for yourself. It enables people to kind of, I guess we see some potential in some people, and then maybe a little broad. And
isn't it lovely to draw out that potential? And I think that's what is such a privilege, to be able to see that change coming through. Yeah, we're really lucky, aren't we? And again, we're lucky to love what we do. And I think that's another thing. If you're really unhappy and you don't like what you do, change it. One life. So look to changing it. Em and I took a little while to sort of thrash out names for our upcoming podcast, which you very kindly sort of agreed to help me a little bit with getting it out there. But so we were talking about all these things about, because we're two, you know, women of a certain age, and I just said it's woman shizzle. So our podcast is going to be, and because I know my girls used to use the word shizzle, and I think it was a fair, I don't know if it was a fairly new word, but it was new to me a few years ago, and I looked it up, and of course I think I have used the word, it's sort of, you know, around the word shit. So we're going to call it woman shizzle, because that can cover all sorts of things. So I think that's quite a good compliment to Mindset Explosion, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, well, I think people have probably had enough of us by now. Do you think?
Well, maybe, but we could 45 minutes. Listen, it's been lovely to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Oh, my pleasure. And it's great insight and fantastic, because you're based in Cheltenham.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. Best place. Yeah.
And before we finish, Susie, because obviously there's a lot of things that you're doing. What's the type of person your service is for? Like, where are they at the moment? You know,
okay. So for boudoir photography, it's bridal boudoir, so for brides of any age. And more the boudoir for mature women, so sort of 35, 40 plus. At that age, women have a lot of issues coming to them, and I really work with the woman within to build self-esteem, body confidence. There are many, many wonderful boudoir photographers who do the sort of young pin-up and glamour and that kind of photography, which maybe the younger women sort of go for. So I also do profile portraiture for your LinkedIn and social media use, because it's so important to have a damn good photo of yourself with warm, engaging eyes. And a lot of people are not comfortable in front of the camera, and that shows. So I have my ways of teasing out a more engaging, authentic you. Business showcasing is telling the story of what you do in your business, giving you your own sort of stock library of all your images. I have links to a cloud where you can sort of see these things. And then if any of you have a story to tell, then I would absolutely love to hear from you. The website is womenofspirit.co.uk. I'm going to streamline things down into Women of Spirit will be purely about story sharing for the enlightenment, support and inspiration of people. Ultimately, I'm going to start doing men's stories as well, and then young women of spirit. But the final thing would be, if anybody has the sort of health and well-being for the gut health, then come to me. And there is one more thing which has completely escaped me, because if that isn't enough, but you know what, it's all under in my basket of well-being. So there's the boudoir photography, there's the business showcasing and profiling photography, there's the sharing. I know what it is. It's free Zoom presentations about creating a more confident you. I'm very happy for any groups to go on and come on with you and do. There's only about 20 minutes. And also I'm starting to do speaking engagements with a keynote presentation. So going to be quite busy. I have to say, through lockdown, I've still worked 6 days a week, but I've started to take Sundays off, except for this Sunday evening, Matt Rudman.
I know.
Although this has been a joy, I have to say. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, wow. Listen, thank you so much. I'm going to have to get you back on another time. So
that'd be great. Yeah. Okay.
And I look interested about the stories. I'm sure there's a lot watching at the other.
Yes. one thing about the stories, they are, and also images, they are never ever published without the express permission of the subject. And with the stories, they are edited, and they can be anonymous, but you have a lot of guidance. I have a sort of guidance thing about story sharing. And so every single woman who's told her story, and there are 50 in the 2 books so far, has found it incredibly cathartic. One woman called it a difficult birth, but went ahead with sharing it. 2 women wrote their stories and said, actually, Susie, this has been an amazing experience, but it's my story and I need to own it for a while first. I'm not ready to share it, which is absolutely fantastic, because they've gone through that process. And they've kept it, you know, so brilliant. Yeah, just get in touch. And Will, can we share some links and things on your Facebook?
Yeah, if you drop any links in the comments after Susie.
Super, will do. Yeah. Okay, all right, okay. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Well, I'll speak to you in a sec. I'll just say goodbye to everyone.
Okay, all right then. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Bye, everyone. I'll see you next Sunday.